Hello, Bibi. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me about the course on systemic coaching, on developing the systemic awareness for coaches. Could you, first of all, maybe say a bit more about what this course for you is about?
Yeah. Hello, Jeroen. Nice to see you again. Yeah, this course, well, last year I had experience with my with Russian speaking coaches and people who worked in education. There were people from all over the world, but they had it in the Russian speaking language. And actually, we found out that it was so connecting with all those people who were disconnected from the world by the war in Ukraine. And it was so connected because we could reach each other as human people.
Mm.
And that was amazing because, first of all, I was a little bit afraid. What can I say? What can I not say? And then all of a sudden we realized that systemic work and the systemic view is far beyond good and bad.
Mm.
And yeah, I still, when I think about that, it gives me a warm feeling because I felt such a gratefulness of living in a free country and being in contact on such a deep human level with people who are not living in a free country or went away from a country where they could not live anymore. So, yeah, systemic coaching or the systemic view is, yeah, is a way of being really in connection with a deeper layer than when we have a normal talk together, when we meet each other on the street.
What would you say is that deeper layer about?
Yeah, that's the strange thing is that so many people say after they have done a systemic coaching or a constellation, they say it is as if there is a language for that what we normally cannot speak out loud.
Mm.
And it's mostly about becoming aware of the unconscious part, which is actually in charge when we go through life.
I have personally often heard people compare to the movie The Matrix. Have you seen that movie?
No, a lot of people are speaking about it, and
Well,
I
then,
don't know why, but I never looked at it.
then it's difficult to speak about it. But for those who have,
Yeah.
yeah, and I've not done a training with you in systemic coaching, but I've been trained in organizational constellations, and developing that perspective for me has been indeed seeing that hidden layer of sort of we're not puppets on a string, but somehow we are, and these strings, they suddenly become visible, and with that you're no longer a puppet on a string.
Yeah.
That kind of feeling, it was what it gave me.
And perhaps the strings are just our roots. And our roots are so deep rooted in the patterns and in the habits of our ancestors, but also in our culture, in the surroundings where we are. And actually, this is a very, very old primitive instinct that we have to be together with a group for our safety. And like animals in a herd, when they are grazing somewhere and a lion is coming or a wolf is coming, then they immediately go together because when they are in the group, they are more safe than when they're apart. So we have this this primal instinct to belong to groups. And this is very necessary, especially when you are a child. And then it's necessary that you are loyal to the group you grow up in. And of course, this is mostly your family. And children, they really have antennas for what is not said, but is there.
Mm.
And we human people have also developed something like a surviving mechanism, I think different than animals. When an animal is attacked, it can fall down and do as if it is dead. And then the lion doesn't like that animal, so he walks on. And then this little deer is shivering, and then it walks away. But we people, we have the tendency to put it down somewhere in our belly. Or I also use the metaphor, if there is a kind of event in our life we cannot live with, we tear out this situation out of our history book. But the problem of a history book where a page is torn out, it will always fall open there where the page is torn out. And then you could think about a system is like a history book like that. A history book just wants to be complete. Mm-hmm. Logical, every situation, every event in that history book without a good or a bad. And not from one perspective or the other perspective, just what happened. And we people are very good in surviving by doing as if something not happened. Mm. And this is where especially young people, children, have antennas for. Something happened, but nobody is speaking about it. So then, and this is unconscious, and then sometimes these children behave, and of course we adults were also children, so sometimes this behavior goes on because, or not because, and this behavior is completely unconscious. But it is actually pointing out to something which still needs a place in the system.
And those behaviors we then take into the organizations and into the sort of the adult life that we step into, and then the problem starts.
Yes, for children it's normal.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Just their way of life.
Yeah.
But when we are becoming adult or have an adult age, then still these child illusions are ruling us. Mm-hmm. And then we think, and then other people say, well, you do behave in a strange way, or you find out that every time you are excluded. Perhaps this behavior, which makes that you are excluded, is pointing to something else which was excluded. Perhaps a person, perhaps part of a history.
So if I meet coaches or educators or other professionals that are in the helping industry, if I may label it as such, that don't have a systemic training in their backpack, I often see them being focused on just the individual as a separate entity, not connected to the outside world, because those connections are just too difficult to deal with. And am I right that in this course you offer these people sort of this extra lens whereby they start to see, there's actually more to it? And if I widen my view to include the system of the person that I'm working with, that I sort of start to see what's there?
Yeah.
Or does it go beyond that?
Well, this is a very important aspect of systemic viewing and looking, that you widen your perspective, that you zoom out, and that often we are used to go into the problem. And actually what we do with systemic coaching is to zoom out and to go backwards and just perceive what happens without doing anything. Mm-hmm. And this requires an inner attitude of the coach. So this course will not be a training systemic coaching, but you can already exercise and practice this inner attitude of, well, actually it's mostly de-learn to go immediately into the details and to sit back. And for the coach, this is often very difficult, but it also gives rest. And in this rest, the client get more time to do their own job.
Yeah, that's also my experience, that if you just offering, or not offering, but just indeed stepping back and creating the space in which things can happen.
Yeah.
So that the symptom disappears by itself. Yeah. So you're saying this course is not, you don't learn the techniques of systemic coaching. You don't become a systemic coach by going through this course. That requires more time and a different training. But it really focuses on actually the foundation that's needed to be a systemic coach, first of all, and that is to indeed withdraw and put on the glasses, basically. Yeah. Is that do I describe that correctly?
Yeah, and I heard from the participants and also from other courses that it gives them a lot, although they do not want to be a systemic coach, but they can already see in their work, but also in their life, especially mostly in their own life. Now I understand why I do behave, why the other does behave like that. And sometimes it's not actually understanding why, but more seeing that somebody is working hard for the system, although you don't know anything about that system. Mm. And this gives a wider perspective. Mm. And this provides for clients or other people you are in meeting, it gives already more space. And often when you have a problem, you feel that you are disconnected and you are having not enough space. So already feeling that you have more space is already the first step to develop whatever the problem.
And we do that by basically starting to work on the participants themselves as the object of the course itself.
Yeah, and every module has a kind of theme, and then the participants will have questions, and some questions are about their own coaches or about their own relatives in family or friends or their own behavior. So then I never say never, go into that question exactly, but always with a detour. Mm. And a detour is more by asking questions about what is there more, and since when, and who else. And then you make it wider and wider, and then the perspective of the client can become wider.
Yeah. So whether the client, whether the participant in this course is a coach of individuals or an educator or a team coach, it is all about learning to sit back and starting to add context to the question of the coachee.
Yeah, and to find out that it always has to do something with him or herself.
Aha.
Because
Could you speak about a bit more about that? Because that is, I think, a very important aspect.
yeah, when you have a relationship, a coach-coachee relationship, or an educator-student relationship, you always are part of this relationship.
Mm.
And everybody knows that you cannot change someone else, and we always try to.
Really? I never do.
And then you can realize, when I take care of my part of this relationship, then this relationship will change.
Mm.
Not the other, but the relationship. But this is sometimes, it feels risky because you never know how the other one will react. And this is often the illusion. Sometimes it's also learned or taught by coach schools that you have to be neutral as a coach, that you have to be neutral as a constellator, or that you have been neutral as an educator. It's an illusion. It always will touch also you, and you have a relationship with the other. Otherwise you cannot work. And you can find out as a coach from here to there, where can I go in this relationship? So this is a kind of fine-tuning of your own instruments to make contact with other people. And even more than making contact, it's inviting a relationship. And this can be a coach-coachee relationship. It can be educator-student relationship. But this can also be just for teams, that you are part or not part of a team. And it's infecting, because then also the team members feel, we have to do something with that what is between me and you. And that's something different than I have to do something with you.
And I'm just separate from you. I cannot be touched. Yeah. It's an
interesting thing in online working. That was also what I thought before Corona, that online working, that's impossible. But the interesting thing is that when you meet beyond the screen, perhaps we cannot physically touch, but we can touch by that what is between us. And that's so interesting. That last week I had a coaching session with someone from New Zealand. It's incredible that we can do it. And we really could feel that we were there.
So it's it is as if, or not as if, but to try to find the words for it, as if you connect with the system that is always present, and that you always have a connection with, sort of, by really tuning into what's happening inside your own system.
Yeah.
Is that how you would describe sort of the difference between systemic coaching and regular coaching?
Yeah, Yes, I think, well, what I said, children have these antennas, but we adults still have these antennas. Only we learned also sometimes to with. And when I fight against something, for example, against my mother, then I try to keep her away. Actually, I cut off something in the relationship between my mother and me. Then your antennas somewhere unconsciously will find out Bibi is not complete. Something is cut off, and something from the life flow of life through her parents does not come to her. And what often happens is that the reaction, the unconscious reaction, is from the other to jump in this vacuum. And actually, I think this is the source of all the conflicts, that we are unconsciously trying to fill in gaps in someone else's system. So what we can do as a coach is to try to be complete. And this is the difficult and the personal thing of this course, that you realize, I survived by cutting off all kind of life flows. But as an adult, perhaps I can do research if I still need this kind of survival.
Yeah.
And sometimes this needs a kind of dialogue between the adult part in you and your inner child, which still is surviving when it was 4 years, for example.
So participants who participate will mostly be working on themselves, and by doing that, they will develop an extra lens with which to look at the world around them and at themselves. Is that sort of summarizing it?
Yeah, when you say must work on themselves, then I think nobody will come.
No, that's not what I intend to say.
I really feel how difficult this is.
Yeah.
I'm almost 70 and I still feel, all the time I do it again. I fall down in the traps every time. But slowly, I know that I'm older now and that I'm not 7 anymore. And yeah, we in this course, also by the questions of participants, we find out in a safe way. Actually, it's very safe to be in your own space when you are online and we are together, that you can do it in your own rhythm and find out, just becoming aware. And it's not that hard work, it's just becoming aware of the unconscious parts.
Wonderful. I have one last question, I notice, because it's a question that I get quite often when I speak about systemic work. It's sort of it started with doing constellations, and in systemic coaching, you sort of are withdrawing from the methodology of using a constellation of representatives more and more.
Yeah.
Could you speak to sort of that? Yeah, how you see that evolving? What you see is the advantage of using or not using constellations, and yeah.
Well, I am fond on doing constellations, and strange enough, from the beginning on, I said, well, I think in 10 years we do not need anymore the constellations. Actually, I did not know why I said it and whatever, but through the constellations, we got so many insights how systems work that it is not needed. And we just can verbalize things, we can visualize things in our brain, in our head. And just by asking questions, because I know a little bit that every system has a bigger system around and still a bigger system around. So I am a person and I have the system of my family. And this system of my family was born mostly in the Netherlands and in the culture here. And there were events. So all these systems are around. So I know that this is true and that patterns from this outer shell goes inside and inside and inside. So I can ask questions to widen up to these larger scales.
Wonderful. I am looking forward to participate in it as a tech host, and look forward to many participants from hopefully many countries, cultures, and other backgrounds.
Yeah, I also am looking forward, because every time when we work together with people from other cultures, you don't have to say anything and it is enriching already itself. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and see you soon then.
Yeah, thank you.